2 million years ago, your ancestors weren't hunting. They were scavenging. They followed vultures to find food, waited for lions to finish eating, and used their fingernails to tear into whatever was left. No fire, no weapons, just rocks, bare hands, and the desperate need to survive another day. This is the story nobody tells you about human evolution. We like to imagine early humans as clever hunters, crafting spears and outsmarting prey. The reality was far more brutal. For hundreds of thousands of years, humans survived the same way vultures did. They watched the skies, tracked predators, and ate whatever remained after the real killers moved on. Picture the African savanna 2 million years ago. A lion drags down a zebra in the morning heat. It feeds for hours, tearing through muscle and organ meat. Eventually it wanders off, satiated. This is when your ancestors made their move. They approached the carcass carefully, always watching for hyenas and wild dogs. Speed mattered. Hesitation meant losing the meal or worse, becoming one themselves. What they did next separated humans from every other scavenger on the plains. While hyenas fought over the remaining scraps of meat, your ancestors grabbed rocks and started smashing bones. They were after the marrow, that creamy fatty substance inside that other animals couldn't access. A hyena has powerful jaws, but it can't crack open a femur the way a rock-wielding human can. This was the niche that kept early humans alive. They found food where others saw only worthless bones. The brain came next. Your ancestors smashed open skulls because what was inside offered incredible nutrition. 3 pounds of fatty tissue packed with omega-3s and calories. Then they went for the soft parts. Eyes first, easy to chew and surprisingly nutritious. The tongue, the liver, kidneys, and heart, all loaded with vitamins that prevented deficiency diseases. Nothing went to waste because waste meant death. They ate the skin, the cartilage, the gelatinous tissues inside bones, even the fatty deposits behind the eyes. Here's something that sounds insane but was completely normal. Your ancestors ate the contents of the stomach. A dead herbivore had partially digested plants sitting in its gut, and early humans consumed that pre-digested vegetation because it offered nutrients they couldn't process on their own. They ate the placenta after animal births. They consumed rotting meat that modern humans couldn't tolerate because their stomachs had adapted to handle the bacteria. When fresh kills were scarce, decomposing flesh kept them alive. Before we continue, subscribe to my channel for more mind-blowing facts on the wonders of the ancient world. Scavenging from big predators was just one strategy. Your ancestors also stole from smaller hunters. Cheetahs are fast but not particularly strong. When a cheetah made a kill, a group of humans could intimidate it into abandoning the carcass. They shouted, waved their arms, made themselves look bigger. A cheetah won't risk injury over a meal when it needs peak physical condition to hunt again. This aggressive theft worked often enough to become a reliable food source. Coastal populations developed different tactics. They gathered shellfish along shorelines, smashing them open on rocks. They ate seaweed and algae after learning which varieties were safe. They raided ground nests for bird eggs, each one a perfect package of protein and fat. Inland groups focused on insects. They turned over logs to find grubs, broke open termite mounds to consume thousands of insects in one sitting, and caught small animals by hand. Lizards, rodents, anything within reach became food. Plants provided consistent calories when animal food was scarce. Your ancestors dug tubers and roots from the ground with bare hands. They foraged for fallen fruits, ate edible grasses and tender plant shoots, collected seeds from grasslands. They used their sense of smell to locate underground fungi, following scents to hidden food sources. They climbed trees to reach fruits other animals couldn't access. They even endured bee stings to get at honey because the energy payoff justified the pain. Some plants contained toxins. Your ancestors learned to eat clay alongside these foods. The clay bound to the toxins and neutralized them, allowing access to otherwise dangerous food sources. This knowledge came from observation and experimentation. They watched other animals. If monkeys ate something, it was probably safe. If animals avoided a plant, there was usually a reason. But sometimes they just had to try things and hope. Mushrooms were always a gamble. Some were nutritious, others caused sickness, a few were fatal. The knowledge of which was paid for in human lives. Megafauna carcasses were jackpots. An ancient elephant provided enough meat to feed a group for days. These massive dead animals attracted every scavenger for miles, creating dangerous feeding frenzies. Your ancestors used their social bonds as protection. They formed defensive circles around food, worked together to drive off competitors. A lone human stood no chance against hyenas or wild dogs, but a coordinated group could hold their ground. Their teeth were tools. Sharp canines, inherited from earlier ancestors, tore at tough meat and connective tissue. Molars ground plant material that required serious chewing. They used their jaws constantly, wearing down teeth over years of processing raw food. Everything was consumed exactly as found. Raw, often bloody, sometimes crawling with maggots that added protein nobody wanted, but everybody needed. Fat was survival. 1 gram contains more than twice the calories of protein or carbohydrates. Your ancestors targeted fatty tissue wherever they found it. The soft, pulpy centers of bones after marrow was extracted. Concentrated deposits around organs. Tissue from around the brain cavity. In an environment where food was never guaranteed, those calories meant surviving until the next meal. Water presented constant challenges. Your ancestors drank by cupping hands at rivers and lakes shared with crocodiles and hippos. They consumed liquid from herbivore stomachs when water sources dried up. They chewed on water-rich plants, recognizing which leaves and stems held moisture. Dehydration killed faster than starvation, so water sources determined where they traveled and how long they stayed. The variety of food was actually remarkable. Animal meat, organs, bones, marrow, brains, eyes, skin, blood, plant roots, fruits, seeds, shoots, flowers, insects, grubs, larvae, shellfish, seaweed, bird eggs, small animals caught by hand, even clay for medicine. Your ancestors were ultimate opportunistic omnivores, exploiting every possible food source because specialization meant vulnerability, and vulnerability meant extinction. This wasn't a brief phase. Scavenging lasted hundreds of thousands of years. It was the foundation of human survival, the crucible that created traits we still carry. The ability to eat almost anything. Complex social structures needed to defend food. Problem-solving intelligence required to access difficult food sources. Endurance to outlast other scavengers. All of these came from this era when humans were far from the top of the food chain. They used their bodies to shield carcasses from competitors. They used observation to learn which foods were safe. They used their voices to scare away threats. They used their climbing ability, their endurance, their social groups, every advantage they possessed. And when old strategies failed, they invented new ones. That adaptability, that refusal to give up, that's what made humans different. Sharp rocks weren't carefully crafted tools at first. They were just stones your ancestors found on the ground that happened to have an edge. Eventually someone realized they could make better edges by striking rocks together, but that came later. In the beginning, tools were whatever nature provided and humans were clever enough to use. Your ancestors ate anything they could physically process that wouldn't kill them immediately. That was the only rule. If it could be chewed, swallowed, and didn't result in instant death, it was food. This opportunistic approach to eating is why modern humans can survive on such varied diets. That flexibility was forged in an era when being picky meant starvation. So when you sit down to your next meal, remember where it started. Your ancestors crouched over carcasses in the African heat, hands covered in blood and dirt, eating whatever they could grab before something bigger showed up. They weren't sophisticated hunters. They were survivors who refused to die. They followed birds, stole from predators, smashed bones, and ate things that would horrify you today. That scrappy resourcefulness, that absolute determination to survive, that's your inheritance. If that blew your mind, hit the like button, subscribe, and share this with someone who thinks early humans dominated the food chain from day one. Because the real story is about survival at the bottom, not conquest at the top.